Hi listeners, Jason here. I'm excited to announce that the Psych Health and Safety Conference, PHSCON, will be returning in 2025. After a tremendous success this year, we're going even bigger and better. Taking place on June 19 and 20 at the ICC Sydney, this will be your chance to join the largest psychosocial safety community gathering. Featuring world-class speakers like Adam Grant, Marianne Baynton and Rob Briner, and practical insights from industry case studies. The conference content is all about leveling up your ability to create work that is better for worker mental health and better for business. Whether you're in people and culture, health and safety, psychology or leadership, this 2-day event and optional pre-conference masterclasses is your opportunity to learn, network and grow. Don't miss out. Super early bird tickets on sale now at phscon.com. Now, on to this episode.
From FlourishDx, this is the Psych Health and Safety podcast. With workplace mental health becoming a safety prerogative, this is the source of information on psychological injury prevention and health promotion.
All right. Hi, and welcome to the Psych Health and Safety podcast. My name is Jason Van Schie, and I'm one of the hosts of the show. The aim of the podcast is to rapidly increase the knowledge and application of psychological health and safety in workplaces worldwide. To help with this, we have regular guests from around the world who are leading the way in this important area. But not today, because today is an expert series episode. So no guest, allow me to introduce my co-host, Joelle Mitchell. How are you today, Joelle?
Good. End of year is fast approaching.
Yes, it's how many sleeps till Christmas? 20, something like that.
I don't know.
Yeah, 20 sleeps.
Yes.
Yeah.
20 sleeps. There you go.
Maths. I love how subjective it is. Everyone's got an opinion.
Sure.
Sure. So yeah, how's your week been?
I'm feeling a little bit delirious, maybe.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yep. I think things are slowing down a little bit for me now.
Yeah, me too. Working on some exciting projects that don't have a tight deadline, which is nice.
Probably not the best for you, though.
Not the best for me. I feel focused though, energetic, because it's something that I actually want to do.
Yeah, you've got a different motivation for these ones. Yep.
Yes, rather than like it seemed like it was tender season in the past month.
Yeah.
We've been busy working on a lot of those. So yes, glad that that's over, and no government department's going to be putting out any government tenders over the next few weeks. They wouldn't do that, surely.
Definitely governments haven't been known to release tenders immediately before a Christmas shutdown period. They never do that.
They wouldn't, right? Hopefully not.
If they do, it's going to be your fault.
Yeah. Hey, look, if a government agency wants us working with them, they will not put out a tender over the next few weeks because we will not be responding.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Cool. So, onto the theme of today.
Mm-hmm.
So, Spotify 2024 Wrapped just was released today. You haven't looked at who your top artist was yet, have you?
No.
We have 5 people on our Spotify account. So, our top artist was Taylor Swift. We're in the top 5% of all Swifties, which is actually quite a feat because she was the most listened to across all of Spotify. Something like 26 billion streams of her songs.
Top 5% is
That's
impressive,
big. Yeah. So it helps having a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old girl who will have that, and Sabrina Carpenter pretty much on repeat.
Sure, we'll blame it on them.
Yeah, absolutely. Not a closet Swiftie.
Just be out and proud about it,
Look,
Jason.
she's got some bangers. I'll put it out there. Obviously. No, she's a very talented artist. But we thought, given that, Spotify Wrapped 2024 just came out, what we could do is a Psych Health and Safety podcast Wrapped for 2024 and talk about not our 5 most listened to artists or most listened to songs, but things that we have enjoyed or maybe are most grateful for. I can see you cringe when I say that.
Let's talk about gratitude.
Yeah, we're not that kind of podcast, but we are really grateful for a number of things. It's been a really great year for FlourishDx and the broader team. And so we thought we'd celebrate some of our favourite moments from the last year with our listeners.
And should we shout out to Georgia for sending you the photo of her Spotify thing.
Yep, she's the first listener to send us a screenshot of her Spotify Wrapped, and the Psych Health and Safety podcast was number 1 for her. So thanks, Gigi, for
ahead
being
of
a loyal
ahead of
listener.
Working Life.
Yeah, we beat Adam
We
Grant.
win.
Take that, Adam Grant.
Take that.
Who's interviewing who at the PHSCON?
Yeah.
So thanks, Gigi. And any other listeners, if we're in your top 3 for podcast listens on Spotify, let us know. Unfortunately, Apple don't do that. That's where I listen to my Spotify. I listen to my podcast generally. So. Yeah. So let's talk about 5 things we're grateful for, Joelle.
Okay.
Number 1, I think when I said, hey, Joelle, let's talk about the highlights of the year, we both said the same thing at the same time.
Conference?
Yes, conference.
Yes.
Yeah. So PHSCON was amazing, right? It was a year in the making, but really 4 years.
Less than a year, wasn't it, from when you decided? I feel like it was like 8 months maybe.
We do move quick. So it could have been 8 months from when we decided let's do a conference to getting board approval, getting budget, and then going full hammer and tong at it. But I guess really the culmination of the conference was really 4 years in the making, because it was really about bringing the community together that we've been building largely through this podcast for that period of time, right?
Yeah.
So we've been able to have, over 200 episodes in the last 4 years of the podcast. We've interviewed some amazing guests, and really, we know who is good in this area because of that. And we get to work with some terrific clients as well, who we were able to feature as industry case studies, which was fantastic. But it was just a dream conference for me. So what were some of the highlights from the conference for you, Joelle?
Oh, I mean, the opportunity to interview people like Christina Maslach and Michael Leiter is just amazing, and it's it is always moments like that when I reflect on how awesome this aspect of my job is. I can't
believe we pay you for this.
I can. But yeah, I think being able to have those really in-depth conversations with these real kind of thought leaders in our work is just an amazing opportunity and a real privilege, I think. That was definitely a standout for me. The other thing is just actually, seeing people in real life. Lots of people that I've only ever seen in 2 dimensions on my computer screen. Actually being able to see them in real life and sit down and have a chat with them. At the dinner as well. Sort of seeing everybody there and being able to socialise and all of that. That was really wonderful. I always enjoy an opportunity to get my team all together in the one room as well.
Yeah, and we recently got to do that again last week with Psych Week.
We had Psych Week, yep.
Yeah, so that was good fun as well. The networking was great. Unfortunately, I was running around quite busy.
You missed out on the team karaoke.
I was exhausted.
Yeah.
I was completely exhausted by the second night, completely spent, nothing left. The people that I did get to catch up with and turn a 2-dimensional relationship into a 3-dimensional relationship. There's a lot of people that waved at me and I couldn't remember who they were, even though I'm sure I've had Teams conversations with them before.
Yeah, and it was like, I know that face, but they're really out of context and I don't know who it is.
I had a full 5-minute conversation with Nerida Jessup at the dinner, and it didn't clock it was Nerida because she was sitting at someone else's seat. And, this is someone who we've done webinars with, Teams calls, and it's a little bit awkward later. Went over LinkedIn. I said, hey, I didn't see you at the conference. And she's like, no, we had a 5-minute conversation.
You did.
Yeah, she helped me out by saying, though, she had dyed her hair from blonde to brown, and other people, including her own family members, didn't recognise her. So
okay,
I felt less bad, but thanks, Nerida, for making
I think that was kind of her to give you that out.
It was very kind of her. But other highlights for me from the conference, Zaggy Kozarov's discussion regarding her High Court case, and it really put into perspective why we do what we do. Work can be such a great contributor to mental health, but if it's not done right, it can be really harmful as well. And it can lead to lifelong scars, as Zaggy definitely shared very personally with us. And then David Daniels, mate, what a guy.
What a guy.
Like, amazing. And that's why we've invited David back for the next conference as well. I think he puts such a great linkage between psych health and safety and diversity and inclusivity. And so he and Kanae Dias are going to be great together in a great fireside chat, the two of them.
Yep.
At PHSCON 2025.
What a good idea somebody had to put those two together.
Yeah, who was that again?
I don't know, Jason. It was somebody. Yeah. Some genius.
I'll give you that one, Joelle. That was good. Also, obviously, highlight we're looking forward to at 2025 is interviewing Adam Grant.
Mm-hmm.
We've now established that, we're listened to more than Adam Grant. We are listened
to more, yeah.
Yeah. But we'll allow him to the conference and we'll give him an interview.
We'll give him a bit of a spotlight, help him out.
Yeah, unfortunately, we couldn't get him in person, but we found that the Christina Maslach interview worked really well virtually, so I'm sure it'll be
just
great.
Imagine this year when we can actually see the person that we're talking to on a screen in front of us.
This year?
What, next conference?
Next conference.
Yeah, because when we were talking to Christina, we couldn't see her.
That setup was very not good.
It was quite awkward. Yeah,
it was awkward, but it flowed well. The conversation.
Did.
She's
good thing
amazing.
We're pros,
and she's amazing. Too,
yeah,
Christina. That was definitely a career highlight for me being able to interview her. But we got Rob Reiner coming out in person, Marianne Bainton, who used to host our Canada podcast and is known as the godmother of Psych Health and Safety.
Not the grandmother, the godmother.
The godmother. Peter Kelly, can't keep him away.
No.
He's coming international. A good friend of ours, Joe Grasso, who came and visited us in Perth earlier in the year, he's also coming across to present, giving a US perspective. And then the other hardly international, Chris Jones from New Zealand. He'll be coming along as well.
Just barely international.
Just barely, right? I mean, we're just as far away from Sydney as what Chris is, but he's an international speaker and we're just interstate bunkins.
Mm.
Yeah.
Is it the same distance?
It is the same distance. Yeah. Well, at least the flight time's about the same.
Okay.
Anyhow. So heaps of international speakers and then some really great industry case studies as well. So we've already confirmed Air New Zealand, good friends of ours. Actually, they're coming across from New Zealand as well. Jess Dalton from Sunrise. Joe Grasso is doing a case study. They're all confirmed, and I believe ATCO is the latest one.
We've got a tentative.
We'll just say by the time this podcast airs, ATCO will be doing one.
Sure.
We've got two in the loop as well. So hey, look, I'm getting weekly messages at least from people saying, "Hey, do you need another speaker? I'm happy to speak at your conference." We've got it covered. We've got a long lineup of people that we'd love to have on. Thank you. Gratitude to those people who would love to speak alongside Adam Grant, as would most. But we've got a pretty long speaker lineup and some big names still to announce, which is exciting.
Yep.
Cool. So PHSCON 2024, huge success. Had almost 400 people there. Hopefully double those numbers for next year is the goal. So we'll see. We'll mark that down, right? And then we'll do a reflection in 2025 and see if that came true.
Did we get double
the numbers?
At least.
We'll see. All right. Next thing we're grateful for, Joelle.
Our company has got a lot bigger.
Yeah, well, I think it's doubled in size in the last 12 months. It's a sign of the times that, finally this thing that we started talking about 4 years ago on the podcast and decided to do a whole podcast on a very niche topic is mainstream. And obviously there's a lot more companies now that are interested in it. Funny thing that regulations actually push companies to change behavior, not just...
Funny that.
Yeah, not just ROI papers from PwC and the like. You need a bit more. But it's working, right? And I think what we're finding in Australia is that the rest of the world who work in this space are very envious of Australia's position on psychosocial safety and the fact that we've got regulators who are willing to enforce the regulations as well, which is the big bit. Because we have seen in other countries like Germany, for example, who've had regulations in place since 2014, I think it was. They don't have the same level of uptake because they don't have the same sort of teeth to the legislation.
Yeah.
So who would have thought there's a place for regulators in all of this, Joelle? Like you left too early.
I'm good.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, if we think about, when I joined and when we started this podcast, there was you and 3 devs and me.
Yep, you replaced Libby Brooke.
I did.
Yep. Now at IAG. Yep.
And that was it. And now, yeah, we've got a big psych team. We've got more devs. We've got a marketing and sales team. Yeah, we've had a lot of growth.
Yeah. So we've had growth across all parts of the business, right? You've had 5 new team members join your team. Georgia came and left.
Yeah,
this year.
she cancelled herself out. So
yeah.
So the 5 people who have joined and remain. So we've got Alison Dixon in Melbourne. We've got Sean Dalmason here in Perth, Courtney Wright in Brisbane, Maureen Phillip and Tim Bednall, both in Melbourne. So Tim is the first person that we've had in the head of data science role, which is really exciting and leads us into the next thing that we're grateful for.
Yeah. Well, on that, I'm very. It's been great working with people like Andrew and Dan from our team on our data strategy, and then getting input from our Chief Technology Officer Kev and other people in our dev team as we've kind of evolved that. But really excited about how Tim is now rapidly advancing even further, and even looking at applications of AI through large language models as well to help identify trends in qualitative data, whether that's from focus groups or from other data that companies have. And so hopefully actually we'll be able to share some information on what we've been doing in that space soon. But I've always wanted someone with Tim's skill set on the team, and it was really great to have him join the team. Love everyone on the team, but very appreciative of finally being able to stop being the head data person and hand that portfolio over to someone else who definitely can run with that.
Yeah, and I think the strengths that Tim brings from that the analytics side of things as well has just meant that what the things that we've always kind of gone, that would be really cool if we could do that. He's just been able to basically write out what the devs need to code into the platform, and then magic, there it is.
Yeah, I don't know how anyone develops an analytics platform without someone like Tim.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
No, very fortunate to have him, as we are with the rest of the team as well. So, thanks to everyone for joining the team and putting your faith in FlourishDx, and we hope to return that through great working conditions and great colleagues.
Yeah, and I think, what's really nice is I think the diversity of strengths across the team, and really being able to pull from a lot of different working backgrounds and experiences so that we can actually really have the right people on the different work that comes through.
Yeah, absolutely. So, with all those new people and greater investment in our dev capabilities and whatnot as well, we've been able to add a lot of new features into the platform as well. So for those of you who aren't aware, we don't just run a podcast and do webinars and conferences and all that. Our primary business is actually trying to make psychosocial safety scalable, and we do that through quite a massive investment into our technology platform, which is also known as FlourishDx, confusingly.
It's
the FlourishDx software platform.
Yeah, I think it's still less confusing than the People Diagnostics thing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, for those of you who aren't aware, we used to be called People Diagnostics and then built a product called FlourishDx, and now we've just taken on that FlourishDx name because that's what people know us as. So I like it. So yeah, like heaps of new features. Like the first one I think that we rolled off early in the year was the action planning feature, and that was really important for the platform. So a lot of people just thought of FlourishDx as a psychosocial risk assessment tool, best in class surely, but just a risk assessment tool, and so therefore kind of like interchangeable with other surveys and that sort of thing. So having an action planning feature actually then really rounded it out as a psychosocial risk management platform rather than just assessment platform, allowing companies to really think about, okay, well, if this is the hazard that we are experiencing as a team or as an organization, what are the controls? And so we've got a whole, library of controls that people can choose from, typically focused at more of the work design level, which is where people generally struggle thinking about how to intervene at that level. Aligning to the hierarchy of controls, being able to assign those different actions to different people, then having global oversight. And so that was really important, right? Because we see a lot of companies just really thinking organizational level controls and updating risk registers at that level. But we know through experience, right, that having impact at a team level, or all those actions that happen at a team level, are the quickest and probably most impactful for individual employees in their experience of work and psychosocial hazards.
Yeah, or even, I guess, the team level controls, but also the application of enterprise controls at a team level as well, right? And that's one of the things that we do see a fair bit as well, is like inconsistent application of something like policy, or, you know, people having access to benefits, right? Like a flexible work arrangements sort of thing that might be available across the business, but if you've got a supervisor that decides that they don't like it, you know, then you've got people in that team that maybe don't have that equity of access. So yeah, there's definitely that side of it as well, right? Like ensuring that leaders are actually that they know what those controls are that are available for them to use, and making sure that they are actually implementing them properly in their teams.
Yeah, that's it, right? And so I guess that's why you I think gave the suggestion around the action planning feature to make sure that we had customizable actions by organisation, so that team leaders could choose from organisational level controls that they could then choose to go, oh, that's available, but I can apply that in my team.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's really great to create those visibility of the existing controls that may not necessarily be applied equally across the business.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, like I really love the action planning feature. There's so many kind of elements to that already, and I can see that really growing in terms of its feature set over time as well. Actually the most recent feature, which is really exciting because it's really shows an evolution of our thinking around psychosocial risks over the past couple of years, is a single risk score. We know with psychosocial hazards, the way that they cause harm is not independent. Usually it's the culmination of a number of different hazards and how they're interacting, combining together, that causes harm. And so really, if you're trying to work out what is the likelihood and consequence of harm based on a range of psychosocial hazards like work overload, low job control, low role clarity, poor supervisor support, incivility, that sort of thing, it's difficult to just look at each of them on their own and then determine what the risk profile is. So we really needed to think about, well, at an employee level, we need to create an algorithm that will assign them a risk rating. So we do that between 0 and 100. And that algorithm really takes into account their exposure to a number of different hazards that they've responded to on our risk assessment survey. And then that score is averaged up to a group score, which can be compared across an organisation. So when we're trying to identify, hey, what is the highest risk group, that's often hard to identify when you're just looking at, oh, well, work overload's high in that one, but, you know, they've got they actually have high job control as well. So maybe, is there a risk there? Is that balancing out? Now we can actually tell our clients, I guess, what are the highest risk groups. And that actually leads us into another really cool feature, which I think most of the world doesn't even know about, which is like the risk finder feature, which fits into that. So I said to our dev team, put a challenge to them. I said, really what we're trying to do with a risk-based approach is to identify high-risk groups of workers. And that might be at a team level, but it also might be at a demographic level, like, you know, gender or age, for example. And so what they have been able to do is to go, well, if we look at all the various interactions of all of these different demographics and company level type filters, what are the highest risk groups, and surface them on a league table from top to bottom. So that we've already had some clients using that, right? And they've found, wow, like how easy it is now to find where the high risk groups are without having to go into the data, applying different filters and trying to look for the high risk groups.
Yeah, and that feature is especially useful for hazards like sexual harassment and bullying, where typically what we see there is that it's rarely a problem across the whole organisation, and so when we're looking at mean scores, it tends to come up quite low. But what we can do with this risk finder feature now is actually look at, you know, we can just choose, well, show me the higher risk areas for sexual harassment, and then we can actually see if we've got it sort of popping up within a particular team or demographic. So that's been really really interesting what we've been able to do with that one. And the same with bullying.
Yeah. And definitely demonstrates the value beyond the health and safety function to also thinking about the HR duties around respect at work.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I think that's going to be a winner. Expect to see a lot more promoted about that feature over the coming months. I guess other things that we've added in include the heat maps. We've been doing that via our consulting, doing bespoke reports for a year or two now. But what we wanted to do was to make that something that could be self-serviced by our clients rather than relying on consultants to do that. And so now, the heat map feature is amazing, right? And it really resonates with particularly senior leaders in an organisation when they're trying to understand, okay, what are our high-risk groups and what does their hazard profile look like?
Yeah, it's definitely kind of like because you can show it on a single page, right? And it's really sort of that dashboarding of information that just helps them to actually say, right, well, I can see that those 3 areas are red, and what do we do next?
Yeah. And that was quite useful. I know you worked with the client the other day, and there were 400 people that responded to a risk assessment, and it was very clear which the top 3 high-risk groups were and what were the hazards that you needed to focus on when doing the next level of focus group analysis with them.
Yep, that's right. And that sort of informs also things like your monitoring strategies moving forward as well, where we would suggest, where we've got groups in that higher risk range, that we would maybe do 3 or 6 monthly monitoring for those groups, and probably a 12 or 18 month strategy for the low risk groups.
Yeah, and we can run a much more condensed risk assessment the second time around for monitoring purposes because we know what are the risks that we're really trying to tackle.
Yep.
So that's been really great to have in the platform. And I can confirm, even though it's a watermelon chart, right, it's got red, green, orange. I am red, green colorblind. I can see all the colors really well. So I had someone on LinkedIn who was offended on my behalf or on behalf of colorblind people that it would not work, but I can see the difference clearly. And if you're very concerned about it, you can export all the heat map and you can apply your own color scheme to it. The things that people get upset about. ROI calculator is another thing. So we commonly get asked, what is the return on investment of psychosocial risk management? And how would you answer that, Joelle?
It depends.
Yeah, I knew you'd say that. Such an org-psych thing to say. But it really does, because it depends on, okay, what is the current state that you're in, right? Like, how bad is it? What interventions do you choose to apply? How costly are those interventions that you choose to use? There's just so much variance in terms of what is the return on investment that you can get. But we wanted to give our clients the opportunity to make a business case for why they might intervene on a particular hazard beyond just the moral, this is not great, right? And so what we did was actually use machine learning to create an algorithm that looked at 7 common psychosocial hazards, which included things like work overload and low job control. And basically from those 7 hazards, when we have a group of people respond to them using our assessment, we can predict quite reliably outcomes like burnout, job dissatisfaction, and turnover intent. And because we can reliably predict those things, we can predict if we make a change to the hazard profile of a group, what would that then do to the expected outcomes? So we can track, if we improved work overload, for example, reductions in burnout, job dissatisfaction, and reductions in turnover intention as well, which then can be applied to think about, well, what would be the cost of replacing someone, or what would be the productivity loss that we'd expect from someone who was burnt out, for example, and using the assumptions of the client, like how much do we pay people and how long does it take to, retrain and get someone up to speed again, all those sorts of costs. It then spits out, well, if you make those improvements to those 3 outcomes, this is the return on investment that you'd get. So, early days with that particular feature, but we're finding that, people are quite interested in it when they're making the business case to management beyond, hey, we have a legal obligation to make sure that we're not harming people or reducing risk so far as reasonably practicable. But by the way, if we were to make this intervention and make this target improvement on this particular hazard, this is the sort of cost saving that we'd expect to get as well.
Yeah. So I guess, the challenge with that tool is that you need somebody who has access to all of that company information to be able to make it really impactful at that senior level. But yeah, certainly if you're able to access that information, then yeah, you can definitely put forward a quite a compelling business case to the exec.
Yeah, and I see it like a lot of our tools, like our benchmark tool, for example. Like it's an opportunity to initiate a conversation with, you know, your senior P&C people and your CFO to get that data and raise their awareness in the profile, I guess, of your psychosocial safety program.
Yep.
Yeah, so hopefully they're more interested in doing that. So they're kind of like 4 quite large features, most of them around obviously action planning, and then our risk assessment tool, which just continues to get better and better all the time. The next big feature, if you're wondering, is around psychosocial hazard reporting, which we're looking forward to. And then that kind of like completes the full suite of what, say, an officer or PCBU need to do to meet their due diligence obligations. So ensuring that, you know, we understand the hazard profile of the organisation and the context. We understand if controls have been implemented and if they're effective. And then the last one is having a mechanism in place to ensure that we're able to receive reports around psychosocial hazards. So we've had a number of clients, probably the most requested feature we've ever had, actually, outside the risk assessment. So yeah, looking forward to launching that early in 2025. Cool. And we'll be able to report back at the end of 2025 and share some customer insights about how they're using that. And I guess maybe it's probably a good podcast episode topic to do during the year as well. Like, how do you actually get a good culture of reporting on psychosocial hazards? Because many companies already have mechanisms for that, but like from what I hear, most of them aren't getting many reports through that mechanism. No. Do you need more psych health and safety in your life? Then head over to the FlourishDx Academy for several free on-demand e-learning courses. If you're an internal professional, follow FlourishDx on Eventbrite to register for any of our free fortnightly interactive webinars. Our flagship professional practice program is also exclusively available for internal professionals. The 12-week course blends theory, applied practice, and interaction with other professionals through live lectures and a monthly community of practice session. Find out more about all these learning opportunities or inquire about a bespoke in-house training at the FlourishDx Academy. www.45003.org. Now back to this episode. All right, another highlight then of the year, professional practice programs. So it started off with my baby, which was the Professional Practice in Psych Health and Safety program, which is a 12-week public program. And we had over 40 people register for the first cohort in 2023. This year we decided to run 2 cohorts, one in February and one in starting in August. So we just finished recently cohort 3. But to date we've had 133 people now through the course. It is a big commitment. It's probably about 30 hours over the entire course, which is why we give people an additional 3 months to get through all the practical component of the course. Because life does sometimes get in the way, work gets busy. Some people have even transferred like jobs, during the 12-week course, which makes it very difficult to do things like focus groups or running a risk assessment survey, which are the practical activities that people do. So yeah, like really happy with that course. The feedback's amazing. We always get such great word of mouth, which like leads to more people registering. The next professional practice in Psych Health and Safety course starts in February. Early bird pricing is still in effect. That's on the FlourishDx website. But the other thing we did this year was Heather and I did a webinar. And when I say Heather and I, it was mainly Heather.
You were there.
I was there. To do a webinar on psychosocial safety investigations. And it ended up being one of our most popular webinars of all time. We had 1,000 people register for that particular webinar. Almost 500 people joined live to participate. And we felt, well, there's obviously such pent-up demand for information and instruction on psychosocial safety investigations that maybe we should turn that into a professional practice course as well. And so I put it to Heather. I gave her, I know she's a busy woman, I put it out to her, said, hey, this is something I think that is needed. Would you be willing to put something together? And much credit to her, she did, and she did an amazing job. We've already had, so there's 37 people who signed up to the first cohort. And the next cohort doesn't start until March, but it's already a third of the way full. Yes, she's done incredibly well on that particular program. And I know the participants have gotten a lot out of it. And probably the greatest testament to a good program is we had 5 people from one company join across HR and health and safety disciplines, and they've already registered 4 people onto the next cohort. So, yeah, you can't say any more than that. Right? They're willing to pay again for more people to go through it.
Yeah, I mean, you could say more, but probably wouldn't add much more to the conversation.
Yeah, that's right.
Other than to say thank you, Heather, and well done.
Yeah, thanks, Heather. Stellar work. And she's led some investigations for our clients as well. Yeah. And,
running internal investigations training for clients also.
Yeah. So she's our investigations queen for sure. Just as a reminder again that those cohorts will start again in February and March, and check out the FlourishDx website. Get in soon for the early bird and super early bird pricing for those as well. Final reflection. What are we grateful for, Joelle?
The people who help us to get this podcast out every week.
And don't we really empathise with them? Remember when we started and we were doing 3 episodes a week, and it was just the 2 of us.
Yeah, it was tough. Good thing we didn't have lots of clients then.
Yeah, that was useful, that the market was not ready for Psych Health and Safety, which gave us time to record more content.
Yep.
Yeah.
We did it all the editing, the social clips, all that.
All the promotion, the guest bookings,
Yep.
Everything. So, yeah, we really empathise with our amazing podcast team that work behind the scenes to get things done. Shout out to our co-hosts, first of all, though, from the UK and Canada. So that's Peter Kelly, Kate Field, Ian Lewis, and Kim McDonald. So thank you so much for lessening the load on us. We don't have time to do 1 episode a week at the moment, let alone 3 like when we started. So doing 1 a fortnight with the support from the UK and Canada team is much more manageable. So thank you. Please keep doing them. We really appreciate it. Behind the scenes, some of you might remember that we had a Jack that was doing our production. That's now Mira. Mira's the new Jack, and she's doing a stellar job. And she keeps trying to push the boundaries as well in terms of the production quality. I reckon she's got some ideas that are churning away and will eventuate onto the podcast in 2025. So we'll see what happens there.
She definitely always has ideas.
Lots of ideas. Hey, and we're a startup, right? We're willing to try new things.
That's
all the
right.
time.
That's right.
Give
it a crack, see how it goes.
Yeah, and we've had some fast fails on some of her experiments so far, but
that's okay.
It's okay. So it's all about learning. It's just as important to learn what doesn't work as it does what does.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Also, thanks to Rhiannon, who is our designer. She is the one that's behind the awesome PHSCON branding.
She is also the one who will be behind the change of this thing sitting behind us for those of you who are watching rather than listening.
Yes, she does not like the media wall that sits behind us in our podcast studio.
She's not alone.
So we will see an update to that, maybe in time for the 25 year. I don't want to put too much pressure on her. But she's also been very busy over the last few months updating the FlourishDx brand. So it's a brand refresh, not a rebrand. But the website is looking amazeballs. And I think by the time this airs, the new website will be up. So you'll be able to see the refresh brand, a lot more information about what we do as a company from a consulting perspective, as well as our software platform perspective. Some of these features that we've just talked about. But over time, hopefully over the Christmas break, we'll be adding a members section there as well. And we'll be inviting our community members to join up to that for free. If you're an internal people and safety professional, you will be able to sign up for that for free. And you'll get access to all of our past webinars and special content as well. We'll even share some select PHSCON videos if you missed some of the highlights, like the Michael Leiter and Christina Maslach interviews, for example. So special member section on there will be fantastic, but we'll share all our clips and other bits and pieces on there that will be freely accessible to everyone.
Nice.
Yeah, I reckon there's so much value on the website. It'll be like the place to go for professional development. Oh, there's also a new short course that we're doing at the moment on how to conduct a psychosocial risk assessment, 2025 version.
Yeah, so a big refresh on our original training. Yeah.
So some of you may have done the FlourishDx Academy course on that topic, but that's now 2 years old, that thinking, and our thinking and innovation around psychosocial risk assessment has evolved dramatically over that period of time. So the 2025 version will reflect our latest thinking and innovations in this regard. So looking forward to getting that out into the world. Hopefully by Christmas, maybe a little bit later. Just depends.
Well, how about you just give everybody a bit of breathing room, Jason? It's not just you doing the recording. Mira has to do all the editing.
Yeah, no, she's all right.
All right.
Yeah.
I was assuming that she was going to have.
She'll have Christmas week off, but she's not having the week before Christmas off.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm not committing to a deadline. You'll hear about it definitely if you're part of the community, because there'll be lots of EDMs and stuff. In fact, I believe Mira would like to do a FlourishDx Academy newsletter, but on a quarterly basis, just to give updates in terms of latest webinars, because we're going to have the members section so people can rewatch things.
Because if there's one thing that people love, it's another newsletter in their inbox.
They can unsubscribe if they don't want it. But we don't get that many unsubscribes. So.
Well, maybe there's a reason for that.
It's great content.
And?
I write it.
No.
And
it's not spammy.
It's not spammy. Yeah. No, I think it's, okay, good. We love that people love our newsletter, and we'll continue to do that. Also, the other thing we're doing from a branding perspective is that the brand that you see on the Psych Health and Safety podcast still is a Jack design. Ree wants to take ownership of it, but it's down the priority list. But hopefully early in 2025, we see the brand refresh for the Psych Health and Safety podcast, maybe aligning with the new background in the studio as well.
I look forward to that.
Yeah. I think most people, and definitely the YouTube stats would attest to this, most people consume the podcast over audio rather than video. So maybe it's more for us than our listeners.
Wasn't our brand, that was well and truly before Jack joined, because that podcast brand you already had that when I joined.
No, he's updated it since.
Okay.
Yeah. It's similar. Don't you remember the whole discussion we had around the helmet and how it should?
Yeah, yes, I do remember that. I thought that was more of a...
No, the very first one we got someone on Fiverr to do, because that was back in the day when it was scrappy, and we had the helmet tilting on the microphone.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I remember that whole absurd argument that we had around the physics of that it wasn't a microphone wearing a helmet like a head. It was a microphone with a helmet hooked over it.
Right. So we finally got our way, even though I don't think he ever agreed that it was right. But so he did the updated version of that. Right? Remember the argument, and now I think maybe the hard hat will finally go all together. I don't know. I kind of like the hard hat though. So good safety vibes.
I'm happy to defer to Ree's expertise on this.
We do defer to her. She's got a great skill set in this area. So look out for a number of through our podcast team and our design team, look out for some updates to brand, content, and ways to access that as well, which will be really exciting.
Everything's exciting.
That's what keeps me going.
I know.
All right. So, Joelle, I think that brings us to the end of the podcast. I'd like to say I'm grateful to you as well for being my co-host and putting up with me for 4 years now. So this is the last episode of our 4th season.
Yeah. What a long 4 years it's been.
You've aged so much.
So have you.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you. And, looking forward to doing more episodes with you in the new year. I know we've already got some that are teed up for next year.
Yeah, we've actually we've got a decent number of them scheduled already. Also very exciting, the first 2 episodes of the new year will be the recordings that we did with Christina Maslach and Michael Leiter from the conference this year. So those will be, we're having 4 weeks of reruns of our favourite episodes from this year. And then after that, you'll be hearing from Christina and Michael, and then we'll get into our new recordings for the year.
Yeah, I think, being on our Christmas replay list is
It's
actually
the ultimate honour.
it's a huge achievement, I think. And last year I think we did 6. We did 2 a week for 3 weeks. This year we're doing 4.
Yep.
So it's even harder to get on the list.
Yep.
So if you are a previous guest of the podcast over the last year, and you make it on that list, kudos to you. It is definitely a very good episode.
Tough competition because we have really some fantastic guests every year. So it is quite a challenge to pick the ones that we actually want to include.
Yeah. So thank you to all the guests who've joined us on the podcast, and to the ones that have joined with Peter and Kate and Ian and Kim as well. We really appreciate you. Couldn't do the podcast without you, although we just proved that we could, right? Because we just recorded a whole episode without a guest.
Yeah, I don't think that we could do a weekly episode without a guest. Or we probably could, but whether people would bother listening. Which brings me to saying again, thank you to the listeners, because, if nobody was listening, it would be difficult for us to justify continuing to do this.
Yeah, like and subscribe, ring the bell. As the young people say.
Sure.
Yeah.
Tell your friends. Share it on your group chat.
Yeah, that's a good recommendation. Yeah. Give us 5 stars on Spotify. There is someone on Spotify who gave us 1 star, I think, because they hate organisational psychologists.
Oh.
Yeah. So that brought our rating down to 4.2. So we need more 5-star reviews. So if you do like the podcast, Spotify have a rating system. Please give us a good review. Last time I did a shout out for that, I think we got 1. Mm-hmm. So thank you to that one person who did that.
I never review anything, so.
Are you asked to?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, listeners, I think that brings us to the end of 2024. I believe we're going into the government mandated break now.
Sure.
We wish we could keep bringing new episodes every week, but we do have to follow the government's mandates, strictly enforced. But we'll bring you those replay episodes over the next 4 weeks, and if you haven't listened to them, definitely listen to those ones because they definitely highlight episodes from the year. As we finish up, remember we do record these conversations, all podcast episodes over video, and they are on our FlourishDx YouTube channel. You'll also find snippets from all of our past episodes, including this one, on the FlourishDx LinkedIn page. So definitely like and subscribe that page to get the regular updates from not only this podcast, but David Daniels' Psych Health and Safety USA podcasts as well. And while you're on LinkedIn, continue to connect with us. We love receiving your direct messages and comments on our posts. So we look forward to engaging further with you there as well. Wishing you all the best for the season ahead, and look forward to seeing you all again in 2025.
Yes.
And that's it. Thank you. And we'll see you next episode in 2025.
You've been listening to the Psych Health and Safety podcast. To stay up to date with the latest on psychological injury prevention, follow FlourishDx on LinkedIn and subscribe to the Psych Health and Safety podcast at www.psychealthandsafety.com.